So this is a video to demonstrate a tool called force field analysis. Force field analysis is a tool that can be used to help your clients make a change. So it relies on looking at motivators and drivers to making a change, but it also looks at things that might block or hinder or push back against making that change. And it tests motivation. And what it can be used to do is to try to strengthen motivators or decrease things that are blocking the change to maximize the chance of success. Or it may be that your client actually identifies that there isn't enough motivation to bring about this change realistically, and then they can decide not to do that, and that's equally helpful. It also brings in qualitative measures. So it uses numbers to grade, which some clients find really helpful because actually it can properly weight a decision in terms of numbers, which some people find more helpful than just talking about the theory. So we'll run this demo. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Nat.
Hi. So last time we met, we went into a discussion about a particular issue. Do you want to just remind me about what we said?
Yeah, so I was sort of reflecting on how tired I've been and how that was sort of impacting things at work, particularly my on-call days. And it just made me realise I need to sort of take my personal care a bit in hand. So sort of my sleep patterns, my
Right.
exercise, and how I'm eating and so on. So yeah, it's really just trying to work on that or one of those.
Great. That's a really good idea. So there's this sort of issue, but then it's the sort of, well, how do I do that? And what
Yeah.
motivators have I got? Okay. So there's a model that I might suggest we use at this stage, which hopefully will help you to clarify why you're doing this, why you're making this particular change or these changes, and also to look at how success might come about. So to look at things that are pushing you to do that and think things that might be stopping you do that, so that you can really look at things that you need to change in order to bring about success in this particular issue. Out of the things you sort of looked at in terms of sleep, diet, exercise, it's probably more useful to pick one of those areas to make a goal around that. Is there one of those areas that stands out for you?
Yeah, I think the priority is sleep because I've already started making some changes with the other things, but sleep, yeah, hasn't really improved.
Okay. Yeah, no. So could you make some words to just make a sentence that was about a goal to do with sleep?
Mm. So, I would like to go to bed earlier in order to achieve at least 8 hours sleep per night.
Okay. Okay, great. So what I'd like you to do is on a piece of paper, sort of horizontally like this, I'd like you
Okay.
to write your goal in the middle of your page, just as you said it.
Mm-hmm.
And
So I'd like to go to bed earlier to achieve at least 8 hours of sleep. Yeah. Okay.
and then we need to form columns on either side of that goal. And things on the left will be things that are pushing you or motivating you to improve your sleep. And things on the right are things that are potentially stopping you or blocking you from getting that sleep. And we need to identify a similar amount on each side. So for the purpose of this exercise, let's try and find 5 things that are really pushing you and motivating you, and 5 things that are potentially blocking or stopping you. So let's start with the motivators. Can you think of things that are pushing you to achieve this goal?
Feeling fresher at work.
Great. So if you want to write that to the left-hand side in a little block.
Okay, so feeling fresher at work. More energy for exercise. Less grouchy with my family.
Right.
Um, being able to make complex decisions more easily, because I think when I'm foggy headed,
Yeah,
able to
it's
make
harder. Yeah, that's good.
complex decisions more easily. And not needing to nap at the weekends.
Okay. No weekend nap. Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah, that's a
They
good.
sound like some good motivators.
Yeah.
Okay, so equally, let's almost be the devil's advocate. What's stopping you, either now or maybe in the past? What's preventing you from achieving that goal to do with your sleep?
Um, being on my phone at night.
Phone. Okay.
My husband wanting to stay up later, so
Okay.
wanting me to stay up later with him. And also actually my daughter is a night owl,
Okay.
so she's often up and about and moving around,
Okay.
so that can kind of wake me up or keep me awake.
Okay.
What else is blocking me? A little bit the dogs sleeping on the bed.
It's all the family members that they're the trouble.
Yeah.
Dogs on the bed. Brilliant. One more thing.
One thing that's blocking me getting to bed earlier. Oh, what else? What else? What else? Oh, cleaning up the kitchen.
Okay. The kitchen. Okay, that's great. Okay, so we've got an equal list on each side. So
Yeah,
what I'd like you to do is go through your positive pushers, and
yeah,
I'd like you to grade them out of 10. And that is a sort of grade of how strong they are,
yeah.
how much they are influencing you or not. So for
Okay.
example, how much is feeling fresher after
Mhm,
a night's sleep? How much of that is a motivator out of 10? Where
mm,
10 is, oh my goodness, that is the only thing I want in the world, versus
mhm,
0 is, oh, it's not really a big thing for me.
mhm.
And put a figure next to each of those in the pushers column,
Okay.
motivators.
All right. So, feeling fresher at work. How much of a motivator is that? Okay. More energy for exercise. Less grouchy with my family. Being able to make complex decisions more easily. Not needing to nap at the weekend. Okay, I've done that
Okay.
one.
And
Then
then
this,
there's some maths involved, I'm afraid.
all
So
right.
you can add up those 5 scores.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be out of 50.
Okay, yeah. So I've done that, yeah. So that's
Right.
the 5.
Okay. And then we're going to do exactly the same on the blockers or demotivators. So how strong is being on your phone in the evening? How much of that is
Oh,
a negative blocker for you?
okay,
Out of 10 again, exactly the same. And then we tot up out of 50.
okay. Um, mm, um, okay, so let's just do that. 17. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, yeah.
Okay. Why do you say that's interesting?
Well, my pushers added up to 41, and
Hmm.
my blockers added up to 31, And that's interesting scoring them, because as I was writing down my blockers, they felt like they were quite blocky, but actually they're not as blocky as I thought they were.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So so initially then, just looking at that as the first half of the exercise, how does that make you feel about this particular goal?
Well, it feels like it's definitely achievable. Yeah, and actually it was really helpful just listing the pushes and the blockers, even just the writing down of the list, even before we scored them. I was starting to kind of like, oh yeah, there's that and that. So that's really helpful. But yeah, so yeah, it makes it feel like it's definitely achievable
Okay.
to get, to put this in place. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So the next phase of this is to
Mm,
try to strengthen the positive pushes and to
mm,
try and decrease the strength of the negative blockers. So
yeah.
what I'd like you to do would be to go through each of the positive pushes and think of a way of increasing the score. It may already be 10, okay, so that's fine. But is there a way of making that feel stronger? So that might be either emotionally changing about how you feel about it, or it might be practically doing something different to sort of strengthen that motivator.
Okay. All righty. Let's see. Do I have to write that down or?
Um, no, maybe just put a little kind of cue for yourself
Yeah,
so that
okay.
you might just write next to weekend nap, no weekend nap, you might write better things at the weekend,
Mm,
whatever it is, because you've got more time because you're not napping. I don't know, I'm making it up, but and then you at the end we're then going to rescore, or you might want to do that as you go along. So you might think, and in that case, that would maximize that from 7 to 9 or whatever.
okay. Okay.
Some of them might just be the same. It might be you can't particularly influence them, especially maybe the emotional ones, but just see how you go.
Mm-hmm. Um, um,
Do you need any help? Is that all right?
yeah, I think so shall I just go through my pushes to start with, or?
Yes, if you just go through those to start with and then recalculate
Yeah, okay.
those.
Um, so the feeling fresher at work, so the advantage of going to bed on time means I'll wake up with a bit more time to mentally prepare myself for a day at work. So I kind
Mm.
of like to have quiet time, and I kind of like to pray before I go to work. So actually it would give me like that time to do that. So that would definitely increase that score. So I put 8 out of 10 initially, but then I'd get 10 out of 10 because I'd just be in the right mindset for work. More energy for exercise. So I'd already given that 10, but actually it just struck me that that's a virtuous cycle then, because the more energy I have for exercise, the more exercise I do, the better I feel, and the more energy I have. So actually that's all good.
And probably the better you sleep.
The better I sleep, absolutely. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And then less grouchy with my family. And actually that was really interesting because that clicks in with if I'm less grouchy, I'm bringing more kind of calm and peace, and those are really strong values for me, calm and peace. So
Mm.
that tying that to my values went up to a 10 out of 10. And then being able to make more complex decisions more easily, that increased that score because I've got lots of different things going on at the moment, both at work and at home,
Mhm.
which do involve quite a lot of complicated decisions. So I feel like every day I'm having to think about something quite important. So that definitely that's, just recognizing that it would be across different parts of my life. That was very, very good. And then not needing to nap at the weekend. I think it just suddenly dawned on me that I think with the holidays coming up as well, actually, the kids are going to be around a lot more over the next few weeks. And actually, it's kind of important that I'm around for them. So not napping means I get to spend more time with them. So that was good. That's increased that one. So I'll just quickly go through the blockers then.
Yeah. Yeah. So similarly.
Yeah, so I'm trying to reduce these now, am I?
Yeah, so you're trying to reduce
Yeah.
these. So it would look at sort of maybe practically,
Mm,
how could you reduce your phone time, say for
yeah,
example, in number one, and in which case, how might that change the score? So you might, you might just set yourself a
yeah.
target for phone use,
Okay.
and then you think, oh yeah, that already feels easier. That's
Mhm.
that's less of a block for me.
So yeah, so automatically, so being on the phone at night, so I'm gonna leaving the phone downstairs to charge. So that's
Mm,
automatically pulled it down because then there'll be this kind of gap as I go up to bed. I won't be able to get on it. And it also means if I wake up in the night, I won't look at it, which again can then keep me awake. So it's downstairs, it's out of the way. Husband wanting me to stay up later with him. I think that's about a conversation and a negotiation around how we spend time in the evening. And actually that's, yeah, I'm happy to have a chat about that and not feel that I've got to stay up, or equally having an evening where we maybe do have a later night, but that's okay. We've kind of planned it. So that can reduce that. Daughter is a night owl and keeps me awake. Well, that wasn't a very high score anyway.
okay.
So I think that's maybe just sort of again a conversation with her about just sort of being a bit quieter, which I'm sure she will do if I just mention it to her. So
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
don't
you
mind it. I
like,
don't mind it
but if
being
you
up.
explained your motivations
Yeah,
and like you said, being less grouchy or whatever, she might
yeah,
then sort of want to get on board with you, mightn't she? Oh, in that
yeah.
case, yeah, I
Yeah.
really need to do this for mum, you know?
Yeah, no, and you know, I don't mind it being up. So it is that negotiation of yeah, stay up a bit later if you want to, but just when you
Yeah,
come upstairs, just come up quietly and don't slam the gate
yeah,
and things like that.
yeah,
Okay. And then dog sleeping on the bed.
yeah.
That so one of the dogs is fine. The other one, she kind of just kind of yeah, she sort of gets in the way. She spreads herself at 90 degrees across the bed. So I just need to make sure that she goes somewhere else at night, which again is easy enough to do. I just need to make sure it happens every night. So that
Okay.
might just be again planning that with the rest of the family. And then cleaning up the kitchen.
Yeah.
I had a plan for that actually. I thought rather than waiting until like the end of the evening, that we all go through after tea and just do a quick clean up. Like we do a kind of 10-minute, let's put some music on, 10-minute clean up,
Yeah.
get the kitchen
Must.
sorted, and then we all benefit because then we don't have to go back to it later. So yeah, that reduces that one. Great.
Mm. Okay, great. So recalculate your
Okay.
columns.
So yeah, so I've got 8, 14. So I'm trying to do quick maths, it's terrible.
No, I
20.
know. Adding up sevens, eights, and nines. It's always tricky.
Oh my gosh, 10, 10, 10. Okay, so it was out of how many? 50?
50.
50, yeah. Oh yeah, of course it's 5 things. So yeah, so I've gone up to 48
Wow.
on the pushers and I've gone down to 23 on the blockers.
Okay. Right. So how are you feeling about that?
Um, yeah, that's really interesting actually. It's really interesting how something that seemed a bit overwhelming and complicated actually suddenly feels very achievable.
Mm,
And it's just a few little things, some tweaks, little tweaks along the way. And none of them, when you were asking me, oh, you know, how can I, you know, make the pusher even more and reduce the blocker, none of them seem sort of unachievable. It's like, oh yeah,
yeah.
of course, yeah, that's an easy thing to change. So but I hadn't really seen it like that before. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have a real kind of way of getting granular with it, like looking at the
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Your blockers are much more practical about doing different things. Your motivators, on the whole, are about your emotions about it and how it's
Mm,
going to change
mm,
your experience. And actually, you added loads of power to really experiencing how that would feel, that freshness, the making complex decisions and things, and how much better that would feel. Looks as though they were the real motivators. The blockers were more about how can I practically unpack this.
mm.
So it's an interesting combination, I think. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that is really interesting, isn't it? Because the blockers actually, yeah, I like the way that you've made that comparison because they are just like little silly things,
the
really,
more
that
practical,
that
yeah.
I'm allowing to get in the way of something that's really important.
Okay. So just looking at this then, what's your first step?
So my first step, I'm gonna have some conversations just about cleaning up after tea, chatting to my husband about how we spend the evenings, and then asking my daughter to be a bit quieter when she comes to bed. So that's really, I can have all of those conversations.
Yeah.
And then the phone thing, oh, it does feel a bit like, oh gosh, that's quite hard because a very addictive habit that I've got into.
Mm.
So I know breaking a habit is tough, but I've just got to bite the bullet and do something with that. And it might be a bit painful at first, but it'll be fine after a couple of weeks of doing it. It'll just become the routine. So just got to get on that. Yeah, so I think that, yeah, those things are definitely going to address.
Okay, great. So it might be worth just hanging on to this, certainly for the first few weeks. So sometimes if you lose your way a little bit and you don't feel like you're lessening those blockers so much, you then look at your pushers and say, no, but why am I doing this? Why have I committed to this decision? How is it going to benefit me and everybody around me? And that sort of can sort of hold in that decision and that motivator, that drive to make this decision, especially if maybe you have a step forward and a couple of steps back in the experience, which is often the way when we're making new habits and making changes in the way we do things. It's great for the first 3 days, and then after a couple of weeks, it starts to slip back. So it's worth just using this as a little bit of a touchstone in terms of why is this goal important to me, and what am I hoping to achieve? And then you may even look back further on and say, have I achieved this now? Like, am I making better decisions? Do I have a clearer head on my on-call day? In which case, that then reinforces this as a process in terms of, yeah, that has actually worked. I can use that in the future, hopefully.
Mm,
So yeah, so keep hold of it as a little bit of a reference point, and that might be helpful.
yeah, thanks, Nat. Brilliant.
No
Thank you.
problem. Thank you.